Riley B. King, an American blues guitarist, singer, composer, and record producer, was better known by his stage name, B.B. King. Many later blues electric guitar players were influenced by the sophisticated soloing technique he created, which featured shimmering vibrato, staccato picking, and fluid string bending. The single most important electric guitarist of the last half of the 20th century, according to AllMusic. As one of the most influential blues musicians of all time, King was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. He is known by the moniker, the King of the Blues, and is regarded as one of the three kings of the blues guitar, along with Albert King and Freddie King, who are not related. King gave non-stop performances throughout the duration of his musical career, showing up at more than 200 shows a year on average into his 70s. He made 342 appearances at concerts in 1956 alone. King was employed at a cotton mill in Indianola, Mississippi, after being born on a cotton estate in Berkeley, close to the Mississippi city of Itta. He developed a self-taught guitar skill set and started working at juke joints and local radio because he was drawn to music. Later, he resided in Memphis and Chicago. As his notoriety increased, he undertook lengthy global tours. Early life. Riley B. King, the son of sharecroppers Albert and Nora Ella King, was born on September 16, 1925, on the cotton plantation of Berkeley, called Bear Creek, in LaFleur County, close to the city of Itta, Mississippi. King's mother abandoned him for another man when he was 4 years old, and Elnora Farr, his maternal grandmother, reared him first in Kilmacle, Mississippi, and later in Lexington. He relocated to Indianola as a teenager, calling it his homeland, and went on to work at a cotton mill. Based on his expertise as a tractor driver, King was declared essential to the war economy, and was allowed to leave the U.S. Army during World War II. King participated in the gospel choir at Kilmacle's Elkhorn Baptist Church when she was younger. King was drawn to the music of the Pentecostal Church of God in Christ. King learned his first 3 chords from the local preacher, who also performed during services on a Sears Roebuck Silvertone guitar. King's Kilmacle boss, Flake Cartledge, purchased his first guitar for him for $15. For the next 2 months, Cartledge withheld money from King's pay until the obligation was settled. King Biscuit Time began airing on KFFA in Helena, Arkansas, in November 1941. It was a blues radio program from the Mississippi Delta. During his plantation break, King listened to it. He was a self-taught guitarist who later aspired to be a radio artist. King left Kilmacle in 1943 to work with the famous St. John's Gospel Singers of Inverness, Mississippi, where he played guitar and drove a tractor. The group sang at local churches and on WGRM in Greenwood. A poster featuring a picture of B.B. King clutching his guitar and Evelyn Young playing the saxophone, together with Bill Harvey and the orchestra. King went to Memphis, Tennessee, in 1946, having followed Bukka White there. For the following 10 months, White took him in. Shortly later, King went back to Mississippi to properly prepare for the next trip. In 1948, 2 years later, he went back to West Memphis, Arkansas. He started to gain popularity when he played on Sonny Boy Williamson's radio show on KWEM in West Memphis. King's performances resulted in regular bookings at West Memphis 16th Avenue Grill and, eventually, a 10-minute slot on WDIA, the city's radio station. The radio spot was enlarged and renamed the Sepia Swing Club due to its immense popularity. He was dubbed Beale Street Blues Boy at WDIA, where he worked as a radio jockey and performer. This moniker was eventually abbreviated to Blues Boy and then to B.B. He had his first encounter with T-Bone Walker there. King declared, "I knew I'd have to get an electric guitar myself once I'd heard him for the first time. Had to have one, without resorting to theft." Career. B.B. King became well known as a pivotal role in the blues genre between 1949 and 2005. He began his career on Memphis Beale Street, where he recorded an album for RPM Records in 1949 and performed with the Beale Streeters. His breakthrough came in 1952 with the song, 3 O'Clock Blues, which led to several great singles and extended his reputation throughout large venues and the Chitlin circuit. He started his own record label, Blues Boys Kingdom, and established a record with 342 gigs in 1956. When King came back to recover his distinctive guitar, Lucille, following a fire during a performance in Twist, Arkansas, it became a part of his legend. He gave it the name of one of the women from the fight that started the fire. Under new management in the 1960s, King gained more exposure and appealed to white audiences by opening for the Rolling Stones. In addition to earning him a Grammy, his 1970 smash song, The Thrill Is Gone, made Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. King received numerous Hall of Fame inductions, the National Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in 2014, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, and the Blues Hall of Fame in 1980. Collaborations throughout the course of several decades included the Grammy-winning songs, When Love Comes to Town, with U2 in 1988 and Riding with the King, with Eric Clapton in 2000. Throughout his career, King performed up to 300 nights a year and appeared in films and television shows. His contribution to blues music transcended small clubs to grand concert halls, making the genre a respected and widely appreciated form of music worldwide. Between 2006 and 2014, B.B. King remained active despite announcing a farewell world tour in 2006. His tour began in the UK and included performances at the Montreux Jazz Festival and Blues at Sunset in Zurich, where he collaborated with various renowned musicians. In June 2006, King attended a memorial for his first radio broadcast, and the groundbreaking of the B.B. King Museum and Delta Interpretive Center in Indianola, Mississippi, which opened in 2008. King's performances were captured in a live album and video from shows at his blues clubs in Nashville and Memphis in late 2006. In 2007, he played at Eric Clapton's Crossroads Guitar Festival and contributed to various tribute albums. By 2008, King had performed at the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival and was inducted into the Hollywood Bowl Hall of Fame. In 2010, King performed at the Mawazine Festival in Morocco and again at Clapton's Crossroads Guitar Festival. He also contributed to Cyndi Lauper's Memphis Blues album. Notably, in 2011, he played at Glastonbury and the Royal Albert Hall. That same year, Rolling Stone ranked him 6th on its list of the 100 greatest guitarists. King performed at the White House in 2012, where President Obama sang Sweet Home Chicago. He also collaborated with rapper Big Crit and performed at the Byblos International Festival in Lebanon. King's final performance took place at the House of Blues in Chicago on October 3, 2014, where he was diagnosed with dehydration and exhaustion. He cancelled the remaining shows, marking the end of his legendary touring career before his passing in 2015. Personal life. King was married twice, in November 1946 to Sue Carol Hall and in November 1946 to Martha Lee Denton. The high demands of King's 250 shows a year have been blamed for the breakdown of both marriages. He is said to have fathered 15 children by many women. Following his passing, 3 more have acknowledged King as their paternal grandfather. King never contested the paternity of any of the 15 people who claimed it, and by all accounts, he was giving when it came to funding trust funds and college tuition, even though neither of his marriages ended in childbearing, and biographer Charles Sawyer claimed that doctors determined his sperm count was too low to conceive. The estimated $30 to $40 million inheritance of King was the subject of court action taken by his 11 surviving children against his designated trustee in May 2016. Along with this, a number of them came out to claim that King had been poisoned to death by his personal aide Myron Johnson and business manager Laverne Toney. No indication of poisoning was found in the autopsy reports. Johnson is the target of a pending defamation lawsuit brought by his sister Karen Williams against the alleging family members. Lawsuits against King's music estate have been brought by other kids. These cases are still pending. King received his private pilot certificate from the FAA in 1963 and began flying at Lansing, Illinois' Chicago Hammond Airport. He traveled to concerts on a regular basis, but in 1995, his manager and insurance company requested that he only fly with another qualified pilot. He eventually quit flying at the age of 70. Frank Sinatra was a favorite singer of King's. He described himself as a Sinatra nut in his memoirs, saying that he listened to Sinatra's timeless album in the wee small hours before going to bed every night. Sinatra had arranged for King to perform at the major Las Vegas clubs throughout the 1960s. He gave Sinatra credit for providing opportunities for black performers who were denied the opportunity to perform in white-dominated settings. Philanthropy and notable campaigns. King recorded live at Cook County Jail in September 1970, at a time when racial and socio-economic disparities in the jail system were hot political topics. King's passion in prison reform and assistance for inmates led him to co-found the Foundation for the Advancement of Inmate Rehabilitation and Recreation. King advocated for both jail reform and the preservation of music and songs through prison performances, much like Alan Lomax. King became an official sponsor of Little Kids Rock in 2002. Little Kids Rock is a foundation that gives kids in poor public schools around the country free musical instruments and education. He was on the honorary board of directors for the organization. King, who received a diabetes diagnosis in 1990, was a well-known spokesperson in the campaign against the illness. Starting in the early 2000s, he made many appearances in television advertisements for the blood glucose monitoring gadget OneTouch Ultra. In later advertisements, King would co-star with Crystal Bowersox, an American Idol competitor who was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 6. Death and funeral. King's health issues stemming from difficulties from high blood pressure and diabetes forced the cancellation of the final 8 gigs of his 2014 tour. He passed away in his sleep on May 14, 2015, at the age of 89, from vascular dementia brought on by many minor strokes as a result of type 2 diabetes. King's 2 daughters claimed that he was purposefully poisoned by 2 friends in an attempt to cause diabetic shock, however there was no proof of this found during the autopsy. On May 27, 2015, King's corpse was transported to Memphis. A hearse was followed by a brass band playing When the Saints Go Marching In as part of a funeral procession that traveled along Beale Street. Thousands gathered in the streets to offer their final condolences. After that, his corpse was transported to Indianola, Mississippi, his hometown, along Route 61. He was interred so that visitors might see his open coffin at the B.B. King Museum and Delta Interpretive Center in Indianola. On May 30, the Belle Grove Missionary Baptist Church in Indianola hosted the funeral. The B.B. King Museum served as his burial site. We thank you for your time and attention, and that is all the information we currently have about B.B. King's. I hope this Jermaine Jackson information was helpful. Click the bell icon and subscribe to our feed to receive more content similar to this one so you don't miss anything.